And they're talking about how we need to, and they bring up the whole Asian shit, which is mostly bullshit, and they talk about how it's been driven by like the pandemic, which is just not true. You can go to the SF Gate article from 10 years ago and see, their article title was "The Dirty Secret of Black on Asian Violence" from 2010. Shit's been happening forever, but this is what's on the front page of Yahoo. And it was on Twitter, too, and it went viral on Twitter. This is the sort of dehumanizing content that Twitter tends to ban. We have this article here. It says, Twitter won't say if dehumanizing language about white people violates their rules. Twitter failed to respond to repeated requests for comment about a tweet from The Root that compared whiteness to a disease, refusing to say if the tweet violates its policies against dehumanizing language. The social media platform updated its policy on hate speech in December last year with a specific focus on dehumanizing language. Our primary focus is on addressing the risks of offline harm, and research shows that dehumanizing language increases that risk, said Twitter in a statement announcing the change. So dehumanizing language increases the harm against a specific group of people that the language is targeted towards. Right? That's what Twitter says, and they say that this dehumanizing language is not allowed on their platform. Except when it comes to white people. That leads to the interracial assaults of white people at a higher rate when people are targeting white people because they've been radicalized by all of these institutions who are currently attacking white people. White people are the ones who are under attack right now in the country. I'm not going to go as far as like LeBron James, who lied. And of course, this is another tweet that went viral. Twitter didn't fact check this or take this down. Who said that every time we step foot outside, every time black people step foot outside their home, they're being hunted down and attacked by white people. The opposite is probably closer to the truth. I'm not going to go that far. But if there's anyone getting attacked, any single group of people that's getting attacked, it's literally white people. It's white people physically and rhetorically by every institution in the country. And this dehumanizing language that people are using is leading to real harm, and Twitter leaves this up. It says, yet a tweet stating whiteness is a pandemic from a verified account with over 600,000 followers remains on the platform. This is that Root article. I want to go back to Nick Cannon. Remember this? We have this up on theredelephants.com. Nick Cannon, projection chat. Exactly, you're right, projection. Nick Cannon gets job back after saying white people are subhuman savages because they have less melanin. This is what he said. Basically. White people are subhuman and closer to animals because of their lack of melanin. As I go on, it says this type of rhetoric is against white people is encouraged across media and academia, and you can't find it's very hard to even find exactly what he said. You have the clip here from I think it's on PragerU or something on Instagram. We embedded that there, but it's difficult to return exact search results for what Cannon said about white people, but it's even more difficult to locate the exact statements made by Bergdorf. So we're talking about Monroe Bergdorf, who's like this transgender model for L'Oreal or spokesperson for L'Oreal UK or something like that. She said, quote, once white people begin to admit that it's their race that is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on earth, then we can talk. This is what she said. Now, initially, this was well before George Floyd. Initially, she was fired for these statements. And then after the death of George Floyd, she was brought back. She was brought back after the death of George Floyd. And Time Magazine rehired her. L'Oreal rehired her. And then Time Magazine said, I don't think I have the link to the article here. Do I have it here? Is this it? Yeah, so that's what she said. And CNN said that she commented on systemic racism. So think about what she said, and they're saying that she commented on systemic racism.
It started as a trickle.
Time Magazine, after she got brought back after the death of George Floyd, they used it as a pretext. Time Magazine came out and said that, well, she was brought back. She should have never been fired because all she was doing was speaking out against racism. Nick Cannon was not fired for what he said about white people. He was fired for what he said about Jewish people. And when you look about like Nick Cannon fired, just Google that. Just Google Nick Cannon fired. Nick Cannon fired. It'll say anti-Semitic comments. Watch. Yeah, here it is. Look, you Google it. It'll say anti-Semitic comments. Anti-Semitic comments. Anti-Semitic. But hey, fuck white people, right? Fucking forget about what he said about white people, about them being subhuman savages because they have less melanin in their skin. Forget about that. Forget about what L'Oreal model said. And then I want to take it to this. And I don't think, like, a lot of this whole Asian shit and all this other stuff, what this is meant to do is, I've talked about this before, is it's meant to create, because whites are still the majority in the country for the time being. It's not going to last forever, but they're still the majority in the country. Just imagine what this is going to look like when we're the minority. Probably rounded up into camps, probably. But whites are still in the majority, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to create this formidable force of all sorts of, the whole term is BIPOC. You have Latinx, you have what's the one for Asians? AAPI, American Asians, Pacific Islanders, or something like this. They're trying to group them all up against white people. That's what they're trying to do, because white people are still the majority. They need all the groups together against white people. And they're trying to get them to like assimilate into like this like grievance culture, by POC type shit, where to get them to away from assimilating into the Anglo conformity model, the historic American nation. It's not. I don't know if this is gonna work. I'm gonna show you this graph here, but this just reminds me of something. There was this. Who was this? There was this lady who called Asians house N-words, house nibbas, right? Asian house N-word. Let me Google this real quick. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I thought the Daily Mail wrote about it, but let me see if I can find this link. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Maybe someone could find it in the live chat for me if you know what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, here. Yeah, San Francisco School Board member called Asians house N-words because they embrace white supremacist thinking to get ahead. Meaning, Asians are going to, they are assimilating better than other groups of people. And I've explained why, right? I've explained why. You have all sorts of different languages. It's not just Chinese people coming over here. So you have all sorts of different languages, all sorts of different dialects, and so they're more likely to assimilate as far as language is concerned. They're more likely to assimilate economically, whatever, right? Also, they're more likely to live in closer proximity to white people, and they actually prefer to live, either by themselves in their own subset of the population. You can look at the racial dot map and look at this. They're more likely to live by themselves or more likely to integrate with white people, and so she called them house N-words, right? And you also have this whole assault on one hand, they're saying, and I'm just trying to think about all this. On one hand, they're saying that, stop Asian hate and like the attacks on Asians, and then they try to like blame it on white supremacy when even though it's like 90% black people who are attacking them. And then on the other hand, they're passing legislation on affirmative action, which is going to per capita affect Asians negatively. And then they're calling them house N-words because they're like assimilating into the Anglo conformity model. They're assimilating to the historic American nation, the Western white culture. And so they're trying to pull them away. They're trying to pull them away with this whole AAPI shit. I don't know if it's going to work, but I did see this thing here. Let me pull this up. Someone sent this to me. How racial groups rate each other. This was published on the 25th. Whites are like the whites are taught to repress this their tribalism, their in-group preference. They're taught to repress this. And when asked, you see that they're like the most egalitarian. You look at Hispanics, they rate whites at the bottom, blacks second, or Asians second, blacks third, and then themselves the first. Asians, they rate themselves the first, right? Whites last. Blacks, they rate whites last. Asians second, Hispanics third, themselves first, of course. And you can see whites are the most egalitarian. Now, I have a really hard time believing that Hispanics rate whites below blacks. I have a hard time believing that Asians rate whites below blacks, because if you just look at like I don't know how much, I wouldn't put too much weight behind this, but like I said, if you look at like the racial dot map, and this is why she calls them house N-words, because not only are they the most likely to assimilate in terms of language and in terms of the culture itself, especially with like second, third generation, but if you just look at where they live, if you look at where they live, and I'll bring up the legend here. If you just look at where they live, you can see that, like here in Detroit, this lonely little area, this lonely little island in Detroit, surrounded by green, are Asians and whites living in peace and harmony together. And this is like all throughout the country. And the same goes for like Hispanics are more likely to live closer to whites in proximity, more likely to choose to live closer to whites in proximity than everyone chooses to more likely to live by themselves in their own part of the population. It's just the way that it goes. People like to be with people who look like them. But so I wouldn't put too much weight behind this poll. But I will say this: if we go to Pew Research and we look at how people view their skin color as central to their identity, I mean, it's highest for blacks, second highest for Hispanics, third for Asians, last for whites. Right. So as far as like seeing your skin color as central to your identity, only 5% of whites say it's extremely important. 10% or 5 and 10% say it's important. 15% say it's important for whites. 70-something percent, 74% for blacks, 59% of Hispanics, 56% for Asians. So I guess there's that. And they're trying to use this, right? They're trying to use this to their advantage. Anyway. So that's what I have to say. Whites are the ones who are under attack, okay? And it's true. And it's very easy to prove that whites are the ones, as I said in this Gab post, white people are the victims of most interracial attacks. Whites are the targets of most hateful rhetoric. Whites are the targets in academia. Whites are the targets in media. Whites are the targets in employment. Whites are the ones who are under attack in this country. And I don't have time to worry about, that, what I'm saying might seem racist. I know who I am. People who know me know who I am. And we have a bunch of people of all different backgrounds who watch the show. And understand that what I'm saying is the truth. And the truth that you're only mainly going to hear right here on Trovo.live/Vincent James or on my BitChute channel. Once again, make sure to go check out BitChute for when we post this segment so that you can share this with many people. And we hope that you share this with many people. Whether it's with Super Chats during the live streams on Trovo.live/RealVincentJames, supporting me on Subscribestar or Patreon, purchasing dry food supply on PrepareWithVincent.com, or even via cryptocurrency, the show continuing completely relies on your support, 100%. In the description below, you will find links to the live show, Subscribestar, Patreon, PrepareWithVincent.com, and crypto addresses. You will also find links where you can find me on alternative social media platforms like Telegram, DLive, and Parler. My contact information is below as well. Make sure to check the links in the description below. It helps the show and website expand and allows me to continue. Thank you all for your continued support.